Hello and welcome to the chapter dedicated to the Sveshnikov 7th move alternative. In the last chapter, we speak about the 6th move alternatives for white, which I don't think make a lot of sense, and I think that black, with a very concrete play, can easily maintain the balance or even to get some kind of the advantage if white try to do something crazy. Now, it's very similar also to play in the 7th move some kind of the alternative that aren't the main lines in the Sveshnikov. Now, let's start from the beginning and see how I mean and what I think about the 7th move alternatives. So, after the move e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes d4, knight d4, knight f6, knight c3, e5, knight d to b5, mainly the only move that I think white can play in order to get some kind of the, or try to get some kind of the advantage. And after d6, certainly the best move by far is the move bishop g5. So this is something that I think white should do here, basically because all other moves are not sufficient to get maybe at some point even the equal position. So now let's start here in this chapter, because I dedicate the whole video to this chapter, of course, as in the book. And here I speak about the moves bishop to e3, I speak about the move a4, and I speak here about the move knight to d5. Now let's go from the beginning and let me try to introduce you what you can see in the video. So basically I think that bishop e3 first here is the move which is for sure a bad move, because this bishop needs to go to g5 in order to pin the knight from f6 and to get the control over the square on d5. When white play bishop to e3, his main goal is just trying to create some kind of nice position, developing the pieces, but with this move white really don't do much here. Now, very important thing is that after a6, knight a3, black doesn't get into the trap, because I think that white players use this bishop e3 line only to out-trick black after the move b5 here. So this is the move which I don't think is good for black. It's not of course a very bad one, but I think that after the move b5 white has the move knight d5, and now somehow white will try to expose the pawn structure on the queen side and try to get something in the center, of course, and probably on the square b6. So basically now black needs to take on d5, and then basically white can even take with the queen. So this is something that I think is better to avoid with black, and of course I show in the book the ultimate move, which is, I think, enough even to get maybe a slight edge. Now, rook b8 is a very strong move that I introduce in the book, of course in the video also, because I think that this is the premium move which completely turn off white advantage here, and I think that after the rook b8 black play is very simple. For instance, here I show what you should do if white play the move like knight d5, of course take on d5 and then play knight e7, and now bishop on e3 will be hit by the knight on f5, and then everything will be covered also on the queen side by pushing the pawn on b5. Mainly, as in some other lines that are similar to this one, white can play c4 or c3, trying to create something on the queen side. Now, in this variation with bishop e3 and without b5, is also very important to understand that at some point white will never be able to somehow attack those pawns on b5 and a6, because black is not obligated to push a pawn on b5. So basically if the pawns stay on b7, then white will not have targets on the queen side. Now, beside of the move like knight d5, here I also show you why bishop to e2 is a wrong move, of course, because after the b5 white basically stay without a pawn, because now after the knight d5, when the b6 pawn is, the b6 square, sorry, is covered, then black just can take on e4, and basically it's a clear pawn because white is lose a pawn on e4. Of course, I show you how to play after the move knight c4, because I think that now after the b5, once again this knight needs to go back, and then with d5, black completely take over the control in the center. So basically, as in the sixth move alternative, this bishop e3 is really not doing anything nice, and I think that black can easily maintain the equality, if not even slightly better position as well. Now, when I speak and when I prepare those lines for a book, of course, and for now the video, which I think is a nice learning video, I also show what to do after the move a4, which also looks like something that will not allow black to push the pawn on b5, but here it's very important to know that white will lose the control over the d5 square. For instance, after the a6 and knight a3, black has here incredible idea to play bishop to g4. Because now, mainly, if white try to play bishop b2, then black can just take and then play d5. And you can see how white lose the control over the d5 square, and I think that here is even just slightly better position for black, due to the fact that black will stay with the pawn on e5 against the a4 knight a3 structure, which is, I think, in this particular position not enough for white to hold on the balance here. Of course, white can try to play f3 now instead of bishop to e2, but then just bishop e6 will be enough to make even stronger impact on the d5 square, because after the move knight b4, once again it is clear that d5 will came, or if white try to do something like knight d5, then after the knight d5, bishop d5, knight d5, e d5, bishop f5, once again white lose the control over the d5 square. Why? Because now this pawn came on d5, completely closed the d file, and now d6 pawn will never be weak, and not to mention that black stay with the two bishops. So here in this scenario, I think that only black can be better. Here I show one of the lines which I think are enough for black to get incredibly nice position, bishop e3, bishop e7 for instance, c3 castle, and after queen to d2, black can just play queen a5. And now the pawn on a4 is hanging, black has very nice and strong bishop pair, and basically when the pawn is on d5, then white will not get any kind of the counter chance on the d file, and of course not to forget that the pawn is still on b7, so this pawn will never be weak. And if the pawn on b7 will not be weak on the queen side, that means that even a6 pawn is a great pawn. So now you can see that without b5, only black has a better position, not really white. So here you can easily see why a4 move is really, I think, a mistake. So basically white will struggle to find a way how to continue, and here with both of the weaknesses on d5 and on a4, I think that the black gets slightly better position. And this is incredible if we know that black can make very strong position after only 17 moves. So I hope that you will face those lines and to play like I show you in this video that you can see. Now, beside of those two moves, the third move, which is I think the most playable one, and which I face, to be honest, very often. Non-bishop e3 or a4 I face too often as the move knight d5. So knight d5 is here, I think, the main alternative to the bishop g5 line, but after the knight d5 also what I think is that white somehow lose the control over the d5 square, because after e takes on d5, and I show you in the video and also in the book, knight b8 as the best move for black, I think that somehow white once again lose the control over the d file, because d6 pawn, the biggest weaknesses in the black camp will never be weak, because here the pawn is on d5, but here white has something else in mind. After the e takes d5, if you take a look very clearly, you will see that white has now on the queen side 4 pawns against 3 of blacks. So A, B and D pawns against D, C, B and A. So that means that after c4, for instance, white will get some kind of the advantage on the queen side. The really, I think, problem here for white is that he will never be able to push the pawn on c5 if black knows how to get all of the pieces together. Now I show you why I think that bishop e7, bishop d3, for instance, castle, castle, a6, knight c3 and f5 maintain the balance here for black. Here it's hard to say that black is better because white has very solid position, but I also think that in those kind of the structures black will not face any kind of the problems as well, because you can see that, okay, white has some kind of the advantage on the queen side, but black has very nice position, especially of the pawns in the center, and of course at some point black can try to do something on the king side. What I think that is here important is to know that you don't need, or you need to stop white from pushing the pawn on c5 and at some point exchange the worst piece, which is clearly the bishop to e7. So for instance, after the move f3, which is something that white usually does here, you have to play bishop g5. So basically what is here, I think, the main reason why we play bishop to g5, because this bishop is the best white potential piece, because all of the pawns are on the light square and this bishop greatly defend all of the dark squares. Then also when the bishop is on e7 here, black has some problems with the coordination of the pieces, because you know, when the bishop is on e7, that then black doesn't have the e7 square for instance for the queen, or also this queen cannot play on this diagonal because of the dark square bishop. Of course, this dark square bishop is also some kind of the useful piece, because he doesn't allow for now push on c5. It's important to see that activity or the plan that white will do is related with the move bishop to e3, and then this bishop from c1 will cover and try to somehow support the push on c5. So that means that bishop g5 is clearly the great positional move, and after, for instance, king h1 and knight b7, knight b8 to d7, you can see that now knight will protect or even jump on c5 square. The bishop after that will get on d7, and then we will have very nice position. For instance, bishop g5, queen g5, queen e2, queen f6, rook e1 is one of the line that I show in the video, and then after bishop c2 to play just a5, and you can see clear domination over the dark squares in the center and on the queen side, based on the fact that black has very nice pieces, and he managed to exchange the best piece from white, which can get at some point on the square on e3. So as I mentioned, I think that this is one and only line where white can try to do something more than in all others. So for instance, a4 and bishop a3 are clearly not enough, in my view, to get even the equal position, but here at some point probably white is about equal. If you will just play as I show you in the video, I think that you will have enough counter chances, and I think that you will get very nice positions with black pieces.